About October 11th, 2023, right? So right after October 7 broke out, there was a protest, a pro-Hamas protest on a campus in the United States of America. And there was a professor who taught in that school. He went to the protest and he was screaming at the Hamas protester, like, you don't know what's going on. October 7th, the Hamas went and invaded Israel and slaughtered 1,200 Jews and then kidnapped 250 of them. And he's going, no. Anyway, the police come, they stop the protest. This professor goes into his room and he's teaching his class. And a student walks over to him and she says to him, wow, professor, that was amazing that you stood up for that. That's incredible. And he says to her, are you Jewish? Like, why do you care? She says, I'm not Jewish, but you are the chosen people. So he says to her, you know that I don't believe in that. I'm a professor, I'm an atheist, I don't believe chosen people. She says to him, you may not believe in it, but we know it. If you want the greatest proof that God exists, that the Torah is eternal and real, just look at the last 16 months. Take a look at the world. Rwanda, Syria, slaughters thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of their citizens. Ethiopia, the whole world has so many problems, so many issues. Do you ever hear a peep about it from the United Nations? The Jews go and invade Gaza, which is our country, which is our territory. Gaza is ours, it belongs to Israel. But that's because Hamas went and started a war. Can you imagine if this would happen, if Mexico would attack the United States of America? Under any president, Democrat or Republican, that country would be annihilated, it would be destroyed. In fact, this is what America did to Germany and to Japan. Millions of civilians were killed in the war. Millions of Germans, millions of Japanese. Did you ever hear an apology from America? No, because when you attack us, when you start a war, we go out and we kill you, we destroy you. That's how things work. But Israel goes to protect itself. And is so careful not to hurt civilians as much as possible, obviously. And the whole world starts screaming at Israel as if Israel's the aggressor. If you want the greatest proof that the Torah is real, this is it. You want to know? They're obsessed with Israel. Why are they obsessed with Israel? Because we are a holy nation. We brought consciousness to the world. We had what's called the giving of the Torah, Matan Torah, and the world is obsessed with us. That obsession is the greatest proof that we are a holy nation and the Torah is real. Take a look at this interview right over here.
I want to read something from your article,
Sure.
okay, that's directly relevant to that. It's from a section called It Was Like a Dam Burst. And so this is right after October 7th. And these are comments by Robert Krell, who's the former director of postgraduate education in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of British Columbia. The impression that the violence unfolding around them is somehow invisible to the state responsible for their protection has overwhelmed not only relative newcomers to Canada like Rugheimer, man you discussed, but also Jews who have lived in Canada for decades. Then you refer to Robert Krell. And next section is, almost none of these verbal or physical assaults, okay, so we're talking about repeated demonstrations, for example, all across the country, long-term occupations of university campuses, most particularly at McGill and at the University of Toronto, with like sporadic outbursts at Concordia, which is its own kind of rat hole, and then in a variety of other places across Canada, right? Riots in Montreal as well, downtown demonstrations in Toronto. Almost none of these verbal or physical assaults are coming from white supremacists, very rare breed in Canada, or anti-Semites of the right-wing variety. Now, those people exist, eh? I mean, when I joined forces with the Daily Wire, one of whose lead spokespeople, let's say, is Ben Shapiro, who's probably the most well-known Orthodox Jew, American Orthodox Jew in the world, the right-wing anti-Semites came after me in droves, and they had been doing that for years for a variety of reasons. So those people exist, and they're entirely detestable in 15 different dimensions, but they're not organized in the same manner as these left-wing anti-Semites, and they don't pose anywhere near the danger. And well, this is what you describe in your article. They are being carried out by self-described progressives, Arabs, and often recent immigrants who are operating inside an ideological framework of settler colonialism, which casts Canada, the US, Australia, and most of all Israel as irredeemably illegitimate constructs of imperialism, capitalism, genocide, and racism. It's an ideology that has found a comfortable home in Trudeau's Canada. Okay, so let's zero in on this a little bit. So
Sure.
I wrote an article about Jewish support for the Democrats about 3 months ago for a UK publication. It was, I tried to publish it at the National Post and at the Telegraph, and they'll usually pretty much take whatever I send them, but they found this one too contentious. And
That's odd.
yeah, you saw it.
No, I say that's odd.
Well,
where did it appear finally?
It appeared in, let's see. I can't,
Okay.
no, it escapes me
What? After
momentarily.
you should send it to me.
I'll send it to you. But let me just tell you, it's just because in the U.S., the support among Jews for the Democrats is very high.
Yep.
It historically runs 75 to 80%. Now, you draw some relationships in your article, which I think are very much worth drawing, because I don't know, maybe this took the Jewish liberal community by surprise. But it's completely unsurprising if you understand the progressive ideological agenda that the Palestinians were cast as victims. And if people are going to play out a victimizer narrative, which is a progressive narrative, the Jews are always going to be cast as victimizers because they are overrepresented in positions of authority and preeminence, radically so. And now my interpretation of that is that the competent rise to the top, and there's a variety of reasons for excessive Jewish competence, and it's marked, for example, in the fact that the Jews have produced an overwhelmingly disproportionate number, let's say, of Nobel laureates, right? And so it's a culture that produces places tremendous emphasis on intellectual ability, and there's more to it than that. But the alternative hypothesis is that it's a cabal, and it's a cabal that dominates, and it's a worldwide cabal. And if you buy the victim narrative, which is key to the progressive agenda, then the Jews are going to be at the top of the list. Now,
the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion phenomenon, there's absolutely no room for the Jews there. It's impossible.
Well, if the rule is, if your ethnic group is overrepresented statistically, you're a oppressor, then that puts the Jews at the top of the oppressor hierarchy.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this. And thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom.